Welcome back to the Blue Bay Studios of Rant Roller Sport. Um, by the title, we're going to talk about a couple of things. This is a spur of the moment live, like all of them are. you know, uh, it's hard for me to schedule things ahead of time because I like to speak on things when they're fresh in my mind and I can give my authentic take. And who you see here is Rich Eisen, right? Former ESPN anchor man. I think he was an anchor for the NFL channel, and he's talking about Kyrie Irving, right? I just want to play something real quick, and this is how I'm going to set it off.
No matter what you said about Kyrie Irving's tweet that apparently has now been deleted, linking his 4+ million followers to a book and a film filled with anti-Semitic tropes, and you say you don't represent that.
Okay, I'm stopping Rich right here, and the reason why I pictured him first was, this is a sports channel primarily, and since we're talking about a sports figure, Kyrie Irving, point guard of the Brooklyn Nets of the NBA, um, I'm going to speak on this because I'm annoyed as a quote unquote so called black man in America, even though I'm not original to this land. That's another talk for another day. But using the label that this society has given me as a quote unquote black man, I'm getting a little tired of this word anti Semitic, particularly being used to describe any one of my people in this country. And I'm going to say this: black people have not been, are, or can never be anti Semitic. All right. But this word is being thrown around a lot. It's always being thrown around um, when members of the quote unquote Jewish community, the so called Jewish community, feel threatened. This is the go to catchphrase to call someone or call a group of people anti Semitic. And they like to throw around this word anti Semitism. Black people in America had nothing to do with Nazi Germany. I'm going to repeat this again. Black people in America had nothing to do with Nazi Germany because Nazi Germany wasn't for us either, by the way. But not getting into so much of the Holocaust and none of that stuff, right? I'm not going to even go into the whole comparing Holocaust to slavery. There is no comparison, for one. Slavery lasted way longer and had way more cultural and spiritual implications than the Holocaust ever did. Okay, but I'm not even going to go into all of that. Not even going to go into all of that. I'm just sick of members of the Jewish media and Jewish conglomerates control most of the media, right? Including this YouTube on a corporate level. Okay, all the major news stations have Jewish controlling interests, right? And anytime they feel threatened, particularly by a so-called black man who speaks up and has anything to say, even though Kyrie said nothing, he just posted something. Now they're basically labeling Kyrie Irving an anti-Semite. And how the hell could Kyrie Irving or any other black person in America be an anti-Semite? And why I feel particularly close to this situation, I'm from New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn in the Bronx. While growing up in Brooklyn, I went to an elementary school on Crown Street, Brooklyn, right between Nostrand and New York Avenue, which I'm pretty sure is still there, PS 161. Sat right next to a Hasidic Jewish school, elementary school. Okay, and we've been right next to each other in that neighborhood, Hasidic Jewish people and so-called black Americans or black people, period, whether it was Caribbean or whatever, right next to each other in the same neighborhood with no interaction. And it wasn't because of the black people's doing that they didn't want to interact. The Hasidic Jewish community kept their children completely separated from us, even though our schools were about fucking 10 feet apart. Okay, 10 feet apart, the buildings were on the same side of the street. Before school, after school, recess, whatever. They made sure those Hasidic children did not interact with us. And this was by choice. And this was done intentionally. So living right next to the Hasidic Jewish community and seeing how standoffish they were, how they wanted no type of interaction with us unless we were doing business with them, living in one of their apartment buildings or frequenting one of their stores. That's about it. Okay? I feel particularly incensed when they want to start to insinuate that a black person could be anti-Semitic. We did not put the Jewish people, the so-called Jewish people, through anything. And in fact, the so-called Jewish people in America, whether they be Hasidic, Orthodox, regular, whatever you want to call themselves, they have benefited off the backs of black Americans since they've been in America. Okay? And every time someone wants to say something, post something, create a film, a book, write a book where it takes anything away from the normal Jewish narrative, okay, they start to throw out that word anti-Semite. And this is what he's doing here.
Kyrie's still playing for you after his last press conference.
Here we go again.
Apparently has now been deleted, linking
over a post.
Ongoing investigation.
And whatever, no matter what, was so bad the Celtics let him go. And hey, Josiah, I'm just saying this too.
This is leading up to the statement about Kyrie Irving. He's about the Nets firing Steve Nash right here. In the middle of the screen, right there, picture with Kevin Durant firing Steve Nash and hiring now former Celtics head coach Ime Udoka, who was suspended for having a romantic affair with a co-worker in the Celtics organization.
Like this is...
Hang on, folks. Let me get back to it.
Like this is, and or then after Kevin Durant wanted him.
Where is it? Lost it? Well, anyway, Rich Eisen went on this spiel about Kyrie Irving promoting an anti-Semitic book and film. And in that book and film, I didn't get my hands on the film yet or the book yet, but I know the gist of it. The gist of it is that the book and the film are speaking about black people in America being robbed of their Hebrew heritage and being relabeled Negroes, black people, Afro-Americans, African-Americans. Every 20 years, they give us a different name. But basically being culturally robbed. Now, I don't necessarily hold to being a Hebrew or anything like that, but it's freedom of speech. But now the freedom of speech is gone in this country because anytime you say certain about a certain group, Jewish people in particular, you can be labeled an anti-Semite. You can be labeled an anti-Semite. Here it is again.
No matter what you said about Kyrie Irving's tweet that apparently has now been deleted, linking his 4+ million followers to a book and a film filled with anti-Semitic tropes, and you saying you don't represent that. The fact that Kyrie's still playing for you after his last press conference.
So now he's advocating for the release or suspension of Kyrie Irving, maybe even being maybe for the NBA to suspend him or ban him for freedom of speech, something he posted. But because if it's something that the Jewish media conglomerate doesn't like, they go on the offensive, on the attack, start throwing out this anti-Semite word. and it does not, cannot, and can never be applied to black people in America.
Performance. Many folks out there still feel you can countenance anti-Semitism. You have a bunch of...
Okay, this is why I cannot stand the people with the most power, the Jewish media, is always crying about being discriminated against, and their war cry word is the word anti-Semite. Now, I'm encouraging all black people everywhere to stand up against this and be like, no, we had nothing to do with the Holocaust. We had nothing to do with that. In fact, y'all bounced back very nicely. Y'all got assistance from England. You got assistance from Europe. You got assistance from America financially, all forms, all kinds of loans and loans. The Jewish people in America are nowhere near suffering.
Fans paying customers sitting in the front row of your building.
Now, if you are Jewish and you see this video and you see this post, by all means, get at me in the comment section and tell me how you feel. I'm telling you what I know and how I feel as far as how black people view Jewish people. Black people are fighting for their identity in this country. This is one of the reasons the black community is in such disarray. When we got put into slavery, we had our language taken, our religion and God taken from us. We were separated. We had family members pulled out of our arms, babies pulled out of women's arms and being sold, children pulled away from families and being sold to other plantations. Okay, and this lasted for 300 plus years. No way in the world are we going to stand by and let Jewish people put this on black people in America, put their suffering on black people in America. Kick rocks with that.
Like in Brooklyn, New York.
You still have your religion. You still have your culture. I'm talking about Jewish people now. And change our last names. Some of you, the ones that didn't hold on to your Jewish names, you changed them. And y'all going to say you changed them for persecution. Well, how can we change our skin color? How about that? You can change your name and blend in amongst so-called regular white people. But can black people? We can change our name. What difference would it make? I can change my name to Finkelbaum. I could be Ron Finkelbaum. And as soon as you look at me when I walk into the office, you're going to say, oh, this is not one of my kind. I don't care what his last name is. Right? But Jewish people have been and continue to play covert games with last names, hide behind the white racism of America, and have the fucking balls, have the chutzpah to label the most beat down people in America, the most suppressed people in America as anti-Semitic, like we had anything to do with Nazi Germany. I'm going to move on from this, and we're going to talk more basketball now, but I had to put this out there. I'm tired of the so-called Jewish media throwing the word anti-Semite on black Americans. We not accepting that. Kick rocks with that. So now let's get to basketball. Let's get to basketball.
We're starting with the big news out of Brooklyn. Steve Nash is gone. Kevin Durant saying, I told you guys to do this summer. Yes. Not a real quote. That's me making it up. Sean Marks with a press release that reads as such. We want to...
All right. You guys know I can't play the whole video through for copyright reasons, so we just going to play little snippets of things here and there. I don't think Steve Nash got a fair shake. I really don't. I was so excited when they first started putting this team together a few years ago, when Kyrie and KD decided they were going to join forces, come to Brooklyn. They brought in Steve Nash, and as a coach, they traded some young pieces for James Harden And at least offensively, on paper, they were a super team with 3 guys capable of going for 30 points a night. Each guy could go for 10 assists in a given night. So I was super excited for this Nets franchise. And that excitement soon started to wane. Why? Because the whole entire first year KD and Kyrie were together, Kevin Durant missed the entire first year. Everyone knew why. We knew he due to the leg injury. Kyrie was hurt after that first year. So not even half of a half. Okay, because Kyrie played maybe half the season. It was a disaster of a year that first year they were together. They still had the young pieces on the team, right? Then fast forward the next year, KD and Kyrie were supposed to come back healthy. They come back. They trade some young pieces that went on to be very successful in other places for James Harden because he wanted out of Houston. They bring James Harden to the Nets. He's out of shape. Maybe he had an injury he was nursing. Injuries occur again, right? But also, Kyrie decides he doesn't want to take the shot, which is his choice. So now he can't play home games. So now Steve Nash is crippled again. You have a healthy KD. You have a Kyrie who only plays road games, and you have an out of shape James Harden. James Harden, shortly after arriving in Brooklyn, decides he doesn't like it there for whatever reason. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. Rumors had it that Kyrie had something to do with running him out of town. I can't substantiate. I don't know that to be true. They trade James Harden to the 76ers for Ben Simmons, who had not played the entire year in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons comes to Brooklyn late last year. I expected him to suit up and be in the playoffs. He hadn't played the whole damn year. I want to say, nope. Does not dribble one ball on the court for the Nets last year. So they basically gave away their young pieces for James Harden, gave him to the 76ers for a guy that did not play one dribble. And Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant lead a Spartan bench into the playoffs. They lose to the Eastern Conference champions, Boston Celtics. How is that Steve Nash's fault? Fast forward to this year. They're not playing any defense. Why? Some of the young pieces they traded away were defensive players, had high energy defense that was gone. You basically put together an offensive heavy with Harden, Kyrie, and Durant, then got traded Harden away for Ben Simmons, who doesn't score at all, but plays defense. Okay, fast forward to this year. Ben Simmons is finally playing, but there's no offensive improvement. He's averaging like 8-9 points a game, close to a triple-double numbers, but still, you're a guy making $40 million a year. We can't have you averaging under 10 points a game in the modern NBA. It's just not. This is not the Dennis Rodman era NBA where you could get away with this in like 96, 97, 98, 99. Ben Simmons could get away with this. The early 2000s, not anymore. You cannot have a guy on your team making $40 million a year and can't score the basketball, whether it's shooting, driving the ball, bank shots, hook shots, whatever. He has to be able to score the ball. You can't have a guy making $40 million, averaging 9 points a game. Okay? And now you have the Nets all 2-5 start because mainly they don't play enough defense. And they can't rely on their $40 million new toy, Ben Simmons, to score. Yes, he does everything else. But in the modern NBA, where the score is routinely in the 115s and 120s, you can't have a guy out there like an old school Jason Kidd scoring 8, 9, 10 points. It's not going to work in this modern era. That's not Steve Nash's fault at all.
Thanks, Steve, for everything he brought to our franchise over the past 2+ seasons. Since becoming our head coach, Steve was faced with a number of unprecedented challenges, some by our own making. That was me, sorry.
Absolutely.
Look back with Durant, Wyatt, Nash.
Now, let me see if I fast forward here, if they speak about Ime Udoka being hired. Here, Vince Carter is saying Steve Nash didn't have a fair shot. I agree. Here, Kyrie Irving being welcomed by fans at courtside. I'm just going to jump around, folks. Ime Udoka coaching this team, as far as a coaching standpoint, we know Ime Udoka can coach. Former coach of the Boston Celtics. But what he got in trouble for was sleeping with an executive of the Celtics' wife. And that's a character thing. Now, you want to bring that into the locker room, to the New Jersey locker room to win at all costs and push that character thing to the side. That's the Nets organization's choice. I mean, at this point, they're kind of desperate.
Anti-Semitic.
Here we go. A bunch of supposedly young Jewish people here with Fight Antisemitism shirts sitting courtside. But notice where they're sitting. Yeah, the so-called Jewish community that's suffering so much, they're not sitting up in the bleacher seats. They're not sitting up by the ceiling of the building. They're sitting right down there on courtside. Why? Because they haven't made in this country. They haven't made, and anytime somebody questions how they got it made, how they maneuvered their way business-wise into every fabric of holding all the media interests and a large part of corporate interests and political interests in this country, they take offense and scream anti-Semitism.
Film on his social media accounts. One of the courtside fans, who, yes, is a Nets season ticket holder, said, quote, "I think he should be suspended and he should understand what he did, but I don't know if they will." Shannon, will is a Nets season ticket holder.
Now they want to suspend it for what? Making a post about a documentary and a book that was put out. Whatever happened to free speech in America, people? Are the Jewish people trying to take away free speech? The so-called Jewish people? Because are they really even the original Jewish people? That's what the documentary is questioning. And they are fighting hard to hold on to that. Okay? And the other thing is this. The Jewish faith is not a race of people. I'm going to say this again. The Jewish faith is not a race. They act like they're being discriminated against by skin color, where all they have to do is change their last name, which many of them have done, shorten it, abbreviate it, whatever, and they fit right into the rest of white America. Can Kyrie Irving or any of the so-called black in this country do the same thing? No, because when they walk into the office door or the whatever, no matter if their name is Steinberg or Finkelbaum or whatever, it won't matter. Goldberg, it won't matter because skin color is going to show who he is. All right. So once again, I'm just getting sick of this whole anti-Semitic thing. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section, and we'll talk about it. This has been Rent Roller Sports.
They have a 24-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Been Rent Roller Sports. You guys take care.
Your first stand, you mentioned like, okay, Kobe beat you the first go around. Now you get an opportunity